You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? Hello, my beautiful friends. You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga enthusiast. I have a great show up for you guys with the yoga news, where I talk about what's going on in the world and how it relates to yoga. Yoga Heals, where I bring on a very special guest and talk to them about the importance of yoga, and the weekly wellness challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's take this moment to go inward, to focus on our breath, focus on our prana. Prana translating to breath, as in the breath of life, our life energy, force, many translations. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, whether you're sitting in the car, you're sitting on your couch, you're laying in your bed, you're going on a walk, there's an array of options. No matter what you're doing, let's take this moment to go inward. So sit up nice and tall, or stand up nice and tall, or lengthen out your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown, so breath can effortlessly move through you. Start with a body scan from your toes to your head, and tense up each muscle and then let it relax. So tense up your toes, let it relax, your ankles, your calves, and then let it relax. Tense up your knees, and then let the tension go, and then your quads and your glutes. Tense up your stomach and then let it go. Tense up your back, squeeze your shoulder blades together and then let it go. Tense up your biceps, let them go. Your forearms, your fingers, make tight fist and then let it go. Relax fully, relax your shoulders fully. Tense up your face, like scrunch it up, like like you ate something sour, and then let it go. And imagine each muscle, each bone, each part of your body just fully relaxing and letting go of all the tension. Start to notice your breath without controlling it. Just notice it. Notice what it's normally like. Soften your gaze, or maybe close your eyes if that's safe for you to do, and push out all of your breath. And then with me, take a deep inhale through your nose. Fill up all the way. And exhale dramatically, like letting out a nice sigh. And inhale through your nose, right into your belly, through your rib cage, filling up your chest. And hold at the top. Feel your spine becoming longer. And then exhale, feeling stillness in your body, letting out that dramatic sigh, like inhale through your nose, letting the breath travel upward, lengthening your spine even more, getting even taller. And hold at the top. And feel stillness in your whole body. And exhale, letting out a dramatic sigh, like pulling in your belly button. Inhale through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. And let out a nice long sigh, exhale to deflate your belly, like Take 3 more deep inhales and even longer exhales at your pace. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news, April 8th, Monday. The solar eclipse is on and popping. I'm sure that you know about this, but I just had to talk about it because I thought it was interesting. Basically, the new moon will be directly between the sun and the earth, and it'll block out the sunlight for like a few minutes out of the day. It's just an event that people are obsessed with, including myself. I'm not obsessed, but I do find it interesting. Like, Well, anyways, a lot of people are traveling to see this solar eclipse, and you'll be able to see it in like basically there's a path in North America going from like Mexico all the way to somewhere in the East Coast, and maybe they just say you'll be able to see it in the northern hemisphere of the world. So a lot of people are traveling these ways to see it. I wish I could see 100% of it, but I won't be able to. I'd have to go a little bit more south, like southern Illinois, to see 100%. But I will be able to see like 95%. I can't remember the exact percentage from Chicago. First, let me warn you guys, don't look at the solar eclipse without the special glasses. Don't do it. You will damage your eyes. And then also, don't point your phone at it to take a picture without a special lens. You will damage your phone. That's just a disclaimer, There are a lot of ancient myths and legends surrounding this whole solar eclipse thing, and I wanted to talk about a few. Like, China has this myth that the sun was eaten or attacked and devoured by a dragon. India, ancient Hindu mythology, they have a pretty dark story behind theirs, but basically, to put it in simple terms, the sun god was fighting with this demon that was trying to become immortal, and the demon was punished and beheaded, and it was the head that was covering up the sun for this short time period of the day, but the sun quickly came back because the sun won. So South America, the Incan culture, they believe that the sun god who they worshipped was mad, and this was a sign of the sun god's wrath. And something I found interesting during this time, they would have sacrifices, so human sacrifices, yikes, might be a thing, or even fasting, because they're like, the sun god's mad at us, so let's try to offer something, get right fast, or whatever the case is. Native Americans, they believe that there was a mischievous black squirrel gnawing on the sun, and that was the cause of the solar eclipse. And West Africa, they have legends or beliefs that human anger and fighting spread to the sun and moon, which causes the eclipse to happen. So West African people took this as a time to be peaceful and make amends with friends, which I think is really cute. Anyways, that was just some of the little myths I read about different ancient cultures and what they thought about these eclipses. And I will link the website in the show notes if you're like, I want to read more, see what you were looking at. Do I believe all of them? No. Like, I don't know. This is what ancient cultures think. But there is a general theme, is that it's kind of dismal, which is interesting because in modern times today, we're really excited. But in ancient Eastern cultures, they kind of saw this as this bad omen, Anyways, let's get into what this means in today's to modern people, besides just the fact that, you know, the moon is between the sun and the earth. Like, okay, yeah, but what is that? Like, what's the symbolism? What does it all mean? That's how I am. That's how I can be. And that's how a lot of people are. But some people believe, okay, you know, the new moon in general is just a time for a reset, to start anew, to have a fresh start. You know, people have different rituals for a new moon, and then also people have rituals for an eclipse that's happening. So some people believe that, oh, this is a positive thing, like, you know, it's a new significance, so this means this is a new start. But some people see this as like a bad omen still, like this means that something bad is to come. And that's what like a lot of ancient cultures kind of thought too. Like, some people believe that this is a time to break old habits, set new intentions, do new things. And I feel like that's just the time in general, because it's like springtime, so everything does feel new. It feels like we're going into the new good part of the year. It's been cold forever and the sun is coming out. So it's a new time period. The busy season is coming. Some people see this as like a bad omen though. So like something bad to come, war, chaos in the world. Things are about to go through we're about to go through some crazy change. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. It could just be a cosmic coincidence, as some of the articles say. It's just something that happens because that's how the sun, moon, and earth work. I also read during this time that people might be a bit more emotional. The alignment of the earth, moon, and sun creates an extra gravitational pull on the earth during any full moon or new moon. So the tides are affected, the water on earth, like the oceans and whatnot. And some people believe that the water in our body is affected. So people are saying like, oh, and especially during an eclipse, some people believe that this is going to be a time where people feel even deeper. They have some deep emotions. The element associated with our emotions is water. So since like, you know, there's going to be more gravitational pull on water on the earth, it's said that there's going to be more gravitational pull on the water in our bodies, and we'll be more emotional, feel everything super deeply. And am I going to be more emotional during this time period? I do not know. It's all superstition, but it's fun. It's interesting. It's like, I don't know. If you are more emotional during this time period, if you need a hug, just imagine right now that I'm hugging you. I'm hugging you with my voice. What does this have to do with yoga, right? So what does this have to do with yoga? Like, how am I going to tie this all in? I actually did want to talk about something for a second. Normally during a yoga practice, I and many practitioners practice Surya Namaskar, A and B, sun salutation, A and B. And it is a very active sequence. It is the basis of most yoga practice. Most hatha yoga practice is very active. It's usually at the beginning of a practice or all throughout the practice, and it's kind of like you're just getting all the way up and getting all the way down, like constantly. Very breath to movement type thing. The sun is actually associated with masculinity, with building heat. Well, with heat. I mean, come on. The Surya Namaskar, it builds heat. The sun is associated with masculinity and, again, building heat and this go type of energy. I thought, why not this week practice, or at least on this day when the moon is going to take over for a few moments. The feminine is going to take over. The cooling energy is going to take over for a few minutes. Why not feed into that? Why not lean into that? You know, normally I'm so used to, in most of my practices, doing Surya Namaskara. This week, and especially on April 8th, I'm going to do Chandra Namaskara, the moon salutation. And it isn't talked about a lot. I don't see it a lot. I've taught it maybe like one time in my class. But, you know, I would like to do more. It's just different, something different to do. They say that it's more cooling, but I'm like, I feel like you can make it as hard or as easy as you want, but it's supposed to be cooling, though. It does involve a lot of stretching, and it moves you differently across your mat. A different yoga sequence to practice in honor of the eclipse. You know, why not be on theme, right? I hope that this is a sign of good things to come, this eclipse, and then this new moon happening. I hope that is the case. Maybe it's not a sign of anything. Maybe it's just a sign of things that happen in the sky. That's the yoga news. I also wanted to talk about the fact that April 7th is National No Housework Day. I'm gonna try to do all my housework Friday and Saturday. So when it comes Sunday, I don't have to do any housework and I can just relax. I've really been in a relaxed mood lately. Like, I just wanna chill. That maybe that is the effect of the moon. It's like the cooling energy is taking over. Like, girl, chill out. Maybe that's the effect that the moon is having on me. I actually will post Chandra Namaskara on Instagram, so follow me at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah, to see the moon salutation sequence. And I'll post it on Monday when the moon is in between the sun and the earth, just to be on theme. Like, I'm leaning into the chill energy, so lean into the chill energy with me on Instagram. Anyways, Yoga Hills, this week's guest, Soul Asar, representing St. Louis and also representing men practicing yoga. Women's History Month is over. It's April now, so I'm bringing some male energy onto my show. No, seriously though, I just love to showcase the diversity of yoga and everybody that practices and benefits from the practice of yoga. And I'm excited for this conversation because we get to learn more about Egyptian yoga, Kemetic yoga, which I've done an episode on that in the past, which is my most streamed episode. Anyways, this was a good conversation. I learned a lot. Let's get on with it. So thank you, Asar, for coming on the Perfect Prana show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
The main question that I come on, or that I ask every guest that comes on to my show is, when did you start practicing yoga and why do you still practice yoga today?
Peace. I'm 41 at the current time. I've been practicing yoga since about 1996 because I studied different spiritualities and religions, and I heard that relaxation of the body also brings peace of mind and also connection to the divine.
And so why do you still practice yoga today?
I definitely see like many benefits from practicing yoga, whether it's physical health. I noticed that I'm not as tense in my body. I'm more relaxed. I don't have a lot of muscle cramps. And I also feel like mentally I'm calmer and more in tune with my conscience, awareness of like right and wrong, and being able to use discernment in certain situations, like for instance, being able to know whether something is as it appears to be. You can like, it gives you a better sense of perception. Spiritually, I feel more in tune with energy and intuition, and the universe, God, or in Kemetic teachings it's called Nefer. I feel more in tune with that energy.
Okay. Interesting. So that is where I was going. So I was like, it kind of sounds like you're describing being more intuitive. My question for you is like, how has your relationship with yoga changed since you first started practicing? Like, with beliefs, and then with maybe even the types of yoga that you've practiced.
I would say in the beginning, when you first approach yoga and see people doing yoga, you're like, wow, am I able to do that? It's kind of overwhelming in a sense, seeing all these different postures and crazy ways to contort your body. So just coming into it from a purely physical standpoint, I was like, am I going to be able to do this? I always have been an athletic person. I played football and I played baseball and even some basketball and track. So it's like I was always athletic. But I think also that enthusiasm had me willing to try yoga and wanting to pursue it.
You described the beginning of a yoga journey so well that it is overwhelming, and I've definitely like looked at other people before I really got into my practice, like, how are they doing that? How is that possible? But it is nice to just be able to break it down step by step and start with the basics, and then one day you're really just surprising yourself. So that's relatable. You mentioned Kemetic yoga, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So, like, what was your introduction into yoga in general? Like, did you start with Kemetic yoga, or did you start with something else? And then also, like, when did you get into Kemetic yoga?
I'd always had an interest in ancient Egypt ever since I was young. I always had that inclination towards ancient Egypt and African spirituality, something that was more in tune with us and who we are instead of, like all these spiritual practices from non-black people. I was attracted to our culture and the painting on the wall that was there, where you see us on the wall. And if you even look on the wall, you can see certain poses and you can see us doing yoga on the wall. So my introduction to it was, of course, I read books about the more East Indian yoga, forms of that. And I learned about the 8 limbs of yoga. And that was interesting. And that was around, like I said, 96. And then when I graduated in 2001, I was doing dual enrollment that year for college. And so I took as one of my electives yoga in college. So it was at first just the physical standpoint of it. About a couple years later, I came across a book called Egyptian Yoga and the teachings of Muata Ashby out of Florida. Him and his wife taught a lot about Egyptian yoga, which is in a language also called Simatawi, which means union of two lands. So I got into that around 2003 or 2004.
You studied the 8 limbs of yoga, which is, from India or that region of the world. Is there any philosophy or like moral code or way of life that comes with Egyptian yoga?
Yes, there is. They are closely intertwined. There's also like some evidence out there that East Africans were in the Indus Valley in like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, like the earlier Indian cultures before the Aryans came. There is that connection and connection to more matrilineal or worship of the goddess and a woman. That was the ancient tantric or the dakinis in India, and then also in ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, you had also the veneration of the goddess. And one of them named Neteret or goddesses was called Mayat, or some people say Mat. And that also represents order, justice, and truth, and law and divine law. So the same way you have like Dharma and karma in ancient India, you also have them concepts in Kemet, just as different names like Mayat and Meskenet and Renenet and Shai. Those were connected to like the karma or the Ari, as it's called in Kemetic teachings.
There really is an interconnectedness across cultures that I always find fascinating the more I learn just between the similarities between all these Eastern cultures. So, so I'm going to pivot a little bit and ask more about your personal practice now. So, on a day to day, what does your yoga practice look like?
Well, I just listen to my body and how I feel mainly. So I do sequences or like postures around different things. Like if my shoulders is bothering me, I'm doing shoulder stretches, like reaching, folds. I'm doing also like upward dog or like a cobra, down dog, or it's called Nuit pose in Kemetic yoga. So that's the physical aspect. And I also like to take time throughout the day for meditation and reflection, kind of slowing down my thought process and just being present. I do that. And I also like work breathing techniques, which you can incorporate like the breath work throughout your whole day, just like approaching different parts of your day and making sure you're breathing correctly and drinking plenty of water too.
Is there anything right now that you're working toward within your practice? Like,
I always have an interest in Hakao, which is word of power or mantra. So I want to get deeper into like my mantra practice and also just more time to study. That's also an important aspect of yoga. Also, that's a correlation in Kemet in ancient India. It's called Sima Rekit, or like the hidden knowledge, ways of the hidden knowledge. And in ancient India, it was called Jnana Yoga or Jnana Yoga, Jnana. And that has to do with studying and listening, reflecting, and meditating on a scripture or some type of parable, allegory, myth, or whatnot.
it takes a lot of focus to be able to study. You know, there's a lot of distractions in this world. So, like, I guess, how do you deal with distractions? How do you protect yourself from them?
To the first part about, it's not enough time to study or it seems like hectic, you could even focus on like one phrase or one sentence, like look up something from the Kemetic teachings and read one sentence and reflect on that. Listen to it first, reflect on it, see how it relate to your life, and then meditate on that. Even if the meditation is like 1 minute long, you're just focusing your thought. That's a good technique. I taught that in some of my classes. And the part about distraction, it's all about just refocusing or remembering. You know, The other day I was driving and it was raining out and it was cold, and I just felt like, oh, I don't feel like being out here. I felt tense, like not really feeling it at the moment. And so then I just told myself I could be at peace. I could be enjoy this or think of something that I like or that makes me happy. And as soon as I did that, my whole vibe shifted. So I feel like that's the same with like distractions or anything that's external. As long as you have you make time to focus your mind inward, you know.
There was something I wanted to ask you. You said you can look up something from the teachings of Kemetic yoga. Where do you find these teachings at? What are good resources for that?
I would say there are a lot of resources out there that were translated and transliterated. You can look up like B.A. Wallace Budge, that author. But I would also say it's good to also study someone who has more cultural perspective instead of like the archaeology part of it. The aspect that's more cultural. Look at their interpretation, because the person who's like the anthropologist or whatnot, they looking at it from a scientific perspective and a literal, where it's literal. But a lot of these teachings is mainly symbolic to like your psychology and the things you go through in your life. So I say some of them authors is like Saber Muata Ashby, Raul Nefer Amen with the Metu books, or Imdu and Tur, volume 1 through 7 in all his books. Also, somebody like Dr. Asar Hilliard, and from a more health perspective, somebody like Dr. Laela Africa. Yeah, those are some good places to start. Like those authors, Sheikh Anta Diop. Some of that is more like anthropology side, but the first two authors, and also you can't forget the great Queen Mother, Queen Afua. Look her up with those first three, Ron Nefer Amen, Queen Afua, and Muata Ashby. Those are good authors to get a clear insight into the spirituality. And it's also someone who is also doing the work with the Ra-Seki Temple down in Atlanta. Look them up. Moot Nia, the mother Nia, she's doing the healing through like Kemetic Reiki. So it's some good resources out there. And if any of y'all listening need any resources, just DM me on my IG or Facebook. I'm mainly on the IG, sometime on TikTok too.
No, I'll definitely have to get your information to put in the show notes. So I guess one of my last questions for you really was, is there any philosophy or just mission or just something that you hold close to your heart that you carry with you from day to day that you just keep at the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, it'd have to go back to also the Kemetic teachings and me taking the attribute Azar, which my full name is also Sekir Nefertah. But Azar, in the teaching of Azar traveled the world and helped the population of the world become civilized through agriculture, through spirituality, and a lot of it was conveyed through music. So I tie all those aspects into my life so I can perform yoga or live the truth throughout my day-to-day life. And that's reflected in different jobs I have. I'm also a vegan chef. I'm into holistic health in that sense. So I feel like that's connected to like the agriculture and the cultivating of fruits and vegetables, like which Azar and Azet, or who some people know as Osiris and Isis, traveled the world doing. The aspect of the spiritual teachings, me being a yoga teacher, and also a practitioner of Reiki. And then the music, I also do music, underground hip hop and EDM with a spiritual slant, but I bring like the modern energy into it too. So I feel like I'm living those aspects of that myth in reality. Mm.
Azar. Well, that is a beautiful name. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and teaching us about Kemetic yoga and just that topic in general, because it was a lot for me to comprehend when I first learned about it. Because I'm like, well, like, what is it? And whenever I'd bring it up in the yoga spaces I've been in, a lot of people don't know what it is, and especially because I'm around a lot of white people and they're like, what's Kemetic yoga? Like we do yoga from Patanjali in India. Like, what are you talking about? So
Yeah,
thank you.
this might be a good time to also mention, since we got a few minutes left, it's a timeline of Kemetic spirituality. I could show you the pic, um, or send the pic, but this is obviously audio. So if you could imagine a line, a horizontal line, you can fit all the other spiritualities into this line. And that's the Kemetic legacy, because it was known from the pre-dynastic period, 10,000 BCE, all the way up to 300 ACE in the Roman period. Isis was worshipped. So within that timeline, you could fit all the world's religions. And the Kemetic, they practice about 26 in the cemetery, 26 postures. And that was in, by the time, like, I want to roughly say 1,000 BCE to like 0 ACE. They practiced that. And that was before Hatha Yoga was even invented. And Patanjali was also, the teachings came out at, after meditation was already developed in Kemet. So it was like, it does predate it. And in a way, I feel like it's hidden because it does give the African diaspora population, it gives us a look into a greater part of our history where India is easy for European to tie in to India, because India, the modern India is a mixture between the British and the Aryans that came thousands of years ago with the original population of India. And that's also where that word Aryan is connected to the European side. So I feel like they can tie themselves into that easy. And if you admit Kemetic was greater, that's giving credit to Africa or Black people for being the originators of meditation and doing the body work, the movement. So I feel like that's why in some of those spaces it's not really talked about. Or they'll be like, what is that? I never heard of that. And it's like, just because a person never heard of something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And there might be a reason why you haven't heard of it. That's the deeper question right there.
Yeah,
You know?
no. You bring up just a very great point. There is seems to be some bigger picture going on here about why this isn't like common knowledge or just why it known. Like I said earlier, there is a connectedness between all these cultures in the Eastern Hemisphere, but you're completely right that Black people fit into that and have originated that. And it is beautiful that we are now starting to associate with our history or our true history more. So, and it's very important. So, thank you for coming and sharing that. Before we go, what I wanted to ask you is if you could lead us through a quick pranayama or just a breath work. I don't know what it would be called in Kemetic yoga, but I always call it pranayama. So
Okay, I'll just say a cow, which means a word of power, or chant multiple words of power. And what we're going to do is do one to clear the soul, mind, and body. And also we're going to chant Om or Om, because that sound was in Kemet as well. If you hear the sound of the Ankh, it's like if you chant that, Om, that's the Om. So we're going to say Om, Amen, Ra, Ptah. We're going to say it 8 times and breathe in on the Om. If you want to just close your eyes and I'll leave, and you breathe in on the Om, but the chant is Om, Amen, Ra, Ptah. Breathe in. Ptah. Ptah. Amen, Ra, Ptah. Ptah. Amen, Ptah. Amen, Ptah. Amen, Ptah. Amen, Ptah. Amen represents the deity of Wazet, the hidden rise of Anu, which represents perception of the mind, and Ptah represents heaven and earth together, physical reality. And so that was of Hekapatah. And the Om represents centering your focus onto those energies, because the Om is the chant of the third eye.
thank you for bringing something different to the pranayama, because it definitely is. I'm like, it's all new to me, but I've definitely been interested in just learning more about Egyptian yoga. In Indian yoga, they'll say namaste. What do you say in Kemetic?
Usually I just say peace, because this is a whole nother conversation, but the Kemetic word for peace is Hetep. And as you know, like people being called Hoteps and it a negative connotation,
Yeah.
so I usually just say peace, but like Hetep is like means peace. Or you could also say, I am divine, Nuku. Or you could just say peace. That's what I say.
Right.
Sometimes
Well,
I used to say Hetep a lot, but throughout the years I was into it before there was Hoteps, quote unquote Hoteps. So I was saying that, but then when people started saying that, calling people Hoteps, which is a whole nother conversation, because actually everybody in the Kemetic teachings with Hotep in their name was seen as a great person. So to like tarnish the legacy of those great people by calling somebody a Hotep in it a negative connotation, that's kind of crazy to me, though.
the things that are done to history.
Find me, DM me, or add me on Soul Azar on IG. Also, Azar Noted. I'm doing a monthly class right now with Connect Wellness. I haven't set up next month yet, but I usually just doing one-on-ones. Now I'm just doing more one-on-one where I deliver the teachings directly to people. And now that the weather's getting nice, I'm gonna be doing it out in the park. And tell anyone warm me up to get the yoga lesson.
Definitely. And everything's in the show notes. So thank you.
All right, thank you for having me. I
All
appreciate
right.
it.
You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. Weekly Wellness Challenge. Last week's challenge, we were surrendering to the divine, and for that I had us write down a list of things that we can control. I don't know how I spun that or why I did that last episode. I can't even remember. I'm not gonna lie. I did write down this list though, and it was very short because anytime I think about the things that I can control, I'm like, I can literally only control what I do. I can't control how I feel. I can't control, I can impact how I feel, maybe. I can impact my energy levels, maybe. I can impact certain things, but I can't really control things besides what I do. I can control what I eat, what I watch, what I listen to, what I do in a day-to-day, if I practice, if I don't. I can control all that stuff. Yeah, that's just essentially I can only control me. Anyways, I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga for my weekly wellness challenge, and I am done with the yamas and the niyamas. And now we're on to the 3rd limb of yoga. Can you believe that we're only on the 3rd limb? You see how packed the 8 limbs of yoga are? Whatever. We're on to the 3rd limb though, which is Asana, which is posture or position. And it's probably the most practiced limb. Most people start with posture or asana because, that's what a yoga class is. We're going to do the movements or to do the poses, right? What's interesting is Patanjali only mentioned one posture, which was the seated posture for meditation, or specifically Sthira Sukham Asanam, which is a posture that is steady and comfortable. So something that you can do with ease. A lot of people believe that all these postures and yoga things that we practice have nothing to do with the 8 limbs of yoga. Patanjali literally said you need a posture that you can practice with steadiness and ease, basically. So later on, there were some texts that came out, some Hatha yoga texts that added a little bit more context that gave us postures like lotus or hero's pose, but these are postures that we can meditate in. But later, I guess as yoga evolved, all these standing poses and seated poses, handstands, twists, back bends, whatever, it all came out over time. At least that's from my understanding of what happened. So some people are like, all this stuff that you're doing is not yoga. All these movements that you're doing is not yoga. One of my teachers did tell me that, the reason why we practice poses and these twists and back bends and standing poses to help strengthen us and to open us up so we can sit down in a seated position and meditate for a very, very, very long time. That's what my teacher told me. And that makes sense because, it's interesting how sitting on the floor in a comfortable seated position and to sit upright and to be seated on our sit bones, it's inaccessible for a lot of people. So I kind of find that we do need these other poses, like these standing postures and these twists and these bends and all that stuff, so that we can sit upright. It's inaccessible for a lot of us to sit upright. so that breath can effortlessly move through us. And it is special to be able to sit on your sit bones on the floor in a comfortable seated position. That's a privilege. Anyways, what is this week's challenge? This week's challenge, something for me to do, something for you to do, is to go to a yoga class and do some yoga. Practice some yoga, some physical yoga, doing movements to help open you up and strengthen you. If you don't do it, things will only get worse. Seriously though, that's the challenge. It's that simple. You don't even have to go in person. Even if you look up a video on YouTube, why not? But I did post on my Instagram at consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. I did post local yoga studios between St. Louis and Chicago if you want to do something like that, or if you just want to go to a yoga class at your gym, or if you just want to stay at home and look up a video and do a yoga class of some sort, do it. But that's the challenge for the week. I challenge everybody to go to a yoga class. I'm challenging myself to go to a yoga class this week. I'm gonna find the time to go to a yoga studio, practice some yoga. I guess I do go to yoga class because of the class, my elective at school, but no, I'm gonna go to an extra class beyond that because it's just different. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. Anyways, I want to stay on theme with this whole moon thing, and because honestly, like I said, I've been feeding into my cooling off energy, my relaxing. Like, I do not feel a ton of heat right now in life. Like, being so productive, I'm getting a lot done, go and yeah. Nah, I have not been feeling like this past week. So yeah, we're gonna, again, we're leaning into that, lean into the feminine moon energy or whatever. Everybody has a masculine and feminine. Anyways, this week's quote, thanks to social media, Instagram, Pinterest, Tumblr. I actually found this quote, and it comes from a book called The Moon Taught Me, which is like a collection of poems and quotes and whatnot. But anyways, the quote is, "The moon taught me there is beauty in darkness too, that even when I don't feel whole, I am enough." That's a really beautiful quote, and just something to think about as we're entering the new week, as we're entering the solar eclipse. Just a good reminder that you're enough even when you're not full or whole or whatever the case is. Anyways, that's the show. Thanks for listening to the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM. I will be posting an extended version on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, so just look up the Perfect Prana show. You'll be able to find it. My 11th episode. 11 is my lucky number. Every time it's 11, I say make a wish. If I can catch it. Anyways, yeah, it was great talking to you guys. With that being said, may the light in darkness within me bow to the light in darkness within you. Namaste.